Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Life Success Legacy podcast. I am Chris Bay. Oh, wait, wrong. I am Mike Crawford. Chris Bay is not with us today, as you can all tell. And I apologize to those of you who were attending this podcast or expecting to hear his voice. But it will just be the mics today. So you've got Mike Kwong down in Houston representing, and Mike Everett here just south of Lawrence, USA. How you
Here
guys
we
doing?
go.
Oh, good,
Hey,
good.
hey,
Good,
All
good.
right.
ready to go.
Hey, so we had the idea to kind of give you guys an inside baseball look at what's happening with the LSL team here in the next, couple of weeks. The annual Think Tank has been going on for how long, Mike Everett?
Well, I went to one of the very first think tanks in Birmingham, Alabama. This would have been in the fall. I believe it was either the fall of '05 or it was the spring of '06. And to be honest with you, I literally can't remember, but I'm going to say it was probably the spring of '06 because
Mm-hmm.
it was one of the very first ones that we did. And we did it in a room about the size of my office with about 20 to 25 people. That's how many people showed up to the very first quote unquote think tank. And we didn't call them a think tank back then. I don't
So
even know what we called them.
this is 18 years ago that you guys sort of, and maybe even a little further back, but when you first were involved, it was roughly 18 years ago that you experienced your first mastermind class.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and so I remember, and 25 might be a push.
Uh-huh.
And really what we were doing at that particular time frame was we were just going and listening to Nelson for 2 straight days. That literally was the whole idea because there was a whole bunch of us. There was maybe a handful of people that had already been connected with Nelson of some sort because Nelson, it's so funny. He had been kind of traipsing around the United States. So Tim Urich, Tony John, there might have been a couple of guys up in the Washington, Oregon area that had connected with him. I can't even remember their name, Rich something or other. He's not even involved anymore. He's not even in IBC. But, and then, gosh, I'm trying to think. There were some guys down in Texas, but I can't think of their names right now. None of these people, except for Tim Urich, is still involved. But
Oh, wow.
literally, this is when Nelson had an overhead projector, and he had a whole packet of the overheads that he literally would take one off to put one on, take one off, put one on. And it was just for what we know now and the way technology is, it's kind of humorous to think back like that. But literally, we started growing this thing. The next one there was like 50,
Mm-hmm.
and we were doing 2 a year at that point
Oh, wow.
because they were so small, and they were all in Birmingham. In fact, it's so funny because here in 2 weeks we're going to be in Henderson, Nevada.
Yeah.
It is our very first think tank that we are not doing in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's weird for me, but yet, in the same breath here, I'm going to tell you, I'm excited because it is in a different location,
Mhm.
and the expectations are going to be just a little bit different. But back to a little bit of the history. I remember this thing grew to 50, then it grew to 70, then it grew to 100, and then over the next, I want to say the next 8 to 10 years, we were having between 300 and 500 show up. Now, this is before we had the Nelson Nash Institute, keep in mind.
Okay.
It was a really super ultra open forum. There were no qualifications. Anybody and everybody could come and go. You could bring clients, you could bring yourself, you could bring your entire staff. A lot of people did that because they wanted, everybody was hungry.
Yeah.
and they wanted to know more and more and more about IBC. And now with the Institute, how can I say this to be kind? There are more restrictions now, and the cost is different.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that that's bad. It's just that it's changed the dynamic. It has changed the overall thought process at the Thnk Tank now, because they literally only want people who are there for the right reasons.
Yeah. So those of you who are now listening to this podcast are, I'm sure, aware that we're going to discuss a little bit about Thnk Tank. And I appreciate Everett giving us that history, because one of the things that, I think we get a lot of questions about is the organization as a whole, Nelson Nash Institute, and our affiliation with them. And we have said this many times in many podcasts that we are Nelson Nash purists, right? And so we value these think tanks, these mastermind classes as a team, because it helps us continue our own education, right? We're going to continue to educate others about Nelson's book and all of that stuff. It's important for us. Now, Mike Kwong, I want to fast forward, because now last year was your first and only so far Thnk Tank, right? I would like to maybe ask you two questions. One big question here, I guess, is you recapped your experience last year, but I'd love a short recap of what you experienced and your expectations then, and what they are now moving into this year's Thnk Tank.
Oh, I guess, last year I didn't really know what to expect, and honestly, I was kind of, for lack of a better word, starstruck by all the legends, in the IBC.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to see everyone in the flesh, and just to come into that energy of in Nelson's spirit, and just to know that we're continuing that mission, like Mike said. It was just like, wow. I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and so this year, I'm really looking forward to it, and especially since we all are going to be there, so that's going to be super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you actually bring up a really interesting point there, real quick, Everett. Before you get there, is like last year it was just you and Mike Everett, right? That went, and some of that was conflict of timing and just a few other different factors that led into that. But this year, our entire team, including one of our associate agents and extremely invaluable part of our team, Haley David Schofer, will also be joining us for this. So this is reminiscent of our November trip down to Houston, where the whole whole gang's back together.
I've got a dovetail on this, so I apologize on the front end to our listeners for what I'm about to say. One of the things that you alluded to just a second ago is that we are IBC purists. And for anybody and everybody who knows us, knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that the infinite banking concept is exactly what we do. Mm-hmm. End of story. We don't do med subs. We don't do business insurance. We don't do health insurance. We don't do IRAs, Roth IRAs. We don't do the stock market. Mm-hmm. We do the infinite banking concept. So I'm gonna go back to the very first time that Crawford, Bay, Forbes, and Everett went. Mm-hmm. And I remember riding on the plane, we're flying down, and I said, okay, I'm just going to tell you right now, with everything that you know about the infinite banking concept, you are going to be in the top 5% of the educated people about IBC. And of course, you know how sweet Shelley is about it. She goes, oh, come on. And I go, well, I said, I'm just giving you a heads up, because you're going to be able to talk about IBC differently than about 90% of the people that are going to be in attendance. Yeah. And do you remember when we went and had Mexican that night? And I said to you, Kwong, I said, you're going to be in the top 5% of the educated people. That was our very first night there.
Yeah.
And I just know this because of the way we do everything across the board, from having people read Nelson's book, to the webinars, to the dream conversations, to the phone consultations, to our software and helping people understand the flow of the money and everything. So I'm a little bit gloating.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit proud as a kind of a daddy type, and think, hey, we know what we're doing. And I'm not meaning that to be cocky.
Mm-mm.
I'm not meaning it to be arrogant. It's just that we have taken our level of understanding and our level of education and what we do with IBC, but yet our want, our need, our push is to educate all of our clients at the same level that we are, because what we're doing is we're creating confidence and competence.
Mm-hmm.
This is not rocket science what we're doing, but yet we know that because of the way all of us have gotten taught about money and trained about this is the way we should do stuff, it is so opposite of what we do. And so back to the Thnk Tank real quick. The Thnk Tank really is a gigantic refresher course for us.
Yeah.
As we're learning and applying and gaining more knowledge about IBC and some of the inner workings, but yet there's a lot of real great relationships that are created while we're at the Thnk Tank.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Mike Kwong, you hit on a topic about your first experience. I was sort of in the same boat when I went the first time, sort of awestruck. I did actually have the extreme fortune of meeting Nelson a couple of times, and so that was obviously the cherry on top of the entire experience. I think my other question for you, Mike Kwong, would really you said that you're excited about the team all being there for this next this Thnk Tank. Do you feel like that we as a team will have the ability to take the information that we get and apply it to the clients that we have currently?
Yeah, I think, that's really kind of the intention, right? With every Thnk Tank, we're going to learn, we're going to get better at a certain skill, whether it's understanding how the PUAs apply or how to even talk to, and address objections with clients, right? It's a multifaceted type of experience that I appreciate. That's not just on the academic learning the mechanics, but also on the people level, being able to talk to folks. Because it's a people thing, right? We talk about long-term trust and relationships, right?
Yeah.
This is it, right? So
yeah,
absolutely.
I think I put you on the spot there because I knew that you would have an excellent answer for that question, because I think a lot of people think of these types of conferences. Any of us in a corporate world or in a business world have gone to conferences, right? We've been trained on the new widget that our company's introducing or whatever that might be. Okay. So we've all been there. When I worked for Michelin with Michelin North America, we would go to these things and learn about new tires and stuff, but it was really just a way to go have fun and blow off steam for a couple of days. That's not how this Thnk Tank works. That is not
no.
The Nelson Nash Institute has set it up. In both of your experiences, what is the thing you look most forward to in terms of the educational part of the Thnk Tank? Not the speakers per se or any of that, but because we don't know the entire agenda, but what's the thing that you are most excited to experience through the Thnk Tank?
MK, I'm going to let you go first. I might get long-winded on this.
Well, I like to just, see all the folks and kind of catch up with how are they doing with, with their practices, right? The networking, I think, is important. I mean, obviously, we have the carriers there, so learning about new products or features, and that's always evolving and keeping it, cutting edge. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
in a nutshell.
absolutely.
I would say, obviously, I'll try not to be emotional about it. I think about what Nelson poured into me.
Mm-hmm.
And the responsibility now that I have to be able to share what Nelson has given to me with others that are there, because of I was so fortunate to be able to really glean so much knowledge and so much wisdom from Nelson. And all of that was a gift to me. And what are we supposed to do with our gifts? We're supposed to share them. So, I take my responsibility very, very seriously about sharing what was deposited in me with others. And that just from our team communication and our team interaction.
Yeah.
So when I get, unfortunately or fortunately, I'll let you decide. I think about last year, I was able to do a short presentation. I think it was like an hour and 7 minutes. And I shared the webinar and the boot camp in an hour and 7 minutes. Now, the webinar lasts an hour 10, and our boot camp lasts 3 hours, and I put it all in an hour 10. Now, there were tons of stuff because of the group that I was talking to. I was able to skip over quite a bit of what we do, and we didn't really get into the Q&A, which lasts a good hour and 15, hour, 20 minutes at the end. So, you take 2.5 hours, maybe 2 hours of what I shared with, and I packed it into an hour. So I was scooting.
Yeah.
And it was quick. But yet the crazy thing was, after I was done, and I know, Mike, you remember this. Do you remember how many people just literally rushed the stage? And I felt like I was like a guy in Hollywood.
I was like,
where,
return.
but yet then again, I have to remember those people as they are approaching and talking and asking questions. That's now my responsibility once again, to be able to share the stuff that Nelson deposited in me. Now, the crazy thing is, we have literally, we haven't veered 5% this way or 5% that way from Nelson's original message.
Yeah.
We don't try to add to it. We don't try to subtract from it. We literally take Nelson's book and we just share the message.
Yeah.
Period. Because this message is so solid, it is so basic, and it is so life-giving to the clients.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we do that? So my expectation when I go to the Thnk Tank is, are the speakers that are going to be on the stage sharing that message? And I literally look through that lens every single time with every single person that gets the opportunity to stand up there and share the message.
Yeah, and I think you both hit on some really good points there. From Everett, your perspective, you've been doing this for 18 years in whatever format the Thnk Tank has evolved through, right? You could talk for an hour probably just on the different iterations of the Thnk Tank, right? And even the few that I've been to, there have been some variances,
That's right.
And then, Kwong, you brought up some really good points about networking, connecting, and just finding people who share like-mindedness. Because again, we sort of live in an island, right? As IBC practitioners, and I'm not an authorized practitioner, but we're coaches, right? And like, we live on an island. We all work from home. We have our clients coming to us. We work with our provider or, our insurers and all that stuff. But honestly, like, it's not like there's a club in town that we all hang out with, or there's not
No.
like this is an opportunity for us to truly hone our IBC, knives and skills as a team for the first time, as well as an opportunity for us to hone those skills in this larger group with people who, through the same lens that Everett's trying to see them in, through the Nelson Nash lens. And because of our training, because of what Mike and Chris Bay have put into us from their education and their own learning, the rest of us have benefited from looking at that lens through that in that same way. And I think that, it is a unique position for us, and it's an exciting one.
Well, we want our message to be like kind.
Yeah.
We don't want one going off over here and one going off over here and somebody doing something up there. So for anybody who has spent any time on YouTube or any kind of channels, they have found those people that are off on tangents.
Sure.
They have listened to them. And then we tell people, you have to do your own research. But if you want to come back and talk to the people that are purists about IBC, we will be those people, because we're not going to lead you astray. We're not going to get you something that you're not going to be able to use. And Kwong, we've got a couple of your clients that have actually come back to us and said, dude, went over here and checked these guys out. They didn't have any idea what they were doing. And I'm not dogging those other people. Yeah. It's just that our lane is so tight. This is the one we're running on, and I'm not going to change it for somebody who thinks, oh, wait, I can get more cash value day one, or how come we can't do this with the PUA, or what about this, what about that? And I'm not trying to be a rear end about it. It's just that we know what works and what's not going to work.
Well, and to that point, right? Every carrier company, structure is going to have its benefits or advantages, and then numbers may vary here and there. But ultimately, I always, I learned from you to fall back on the values that Nelson taught us. That's it. Think long term, right? Don't be afraid to capitalize. Be an honest banker. All of these things.
That's right.
That's the most important thing ultimately, and that's also true with us as coaches, right? We got to keep what's important in front of us. Yeah. So,
and I think that is such a valuable aspect of how we function as a team, but also, even if some of the speakers or the situation at the Thnk Tank aren't exactly our cup of tea, that doesn't mean we can't learn from it.
That's right.
We can't glean some information from those presenters, from the situation through the Thnk Tank. And so I don't know any conference or any type of event like this that's perfect. I don't care what it is.
No, that's right. That's right.
And so we don't expect perfection, but we enjoy when we are able to take that information and really apply it in our company and how we coach our clients. So
chew up the meat, spit out the bones.
You know it.
That's it.
Well, guys, I think this has been an excellent conversation around our expectations and what's coming up for the team here in the next couple of weeks. And I think, unless you guys have anything else to add, I think we've done a really good job of recapping the behind the scenes of the Thnk Tank.
And where is Chris Bay when you really need him?
I know, his sign is so much better than mine. Well, thank you all for joining us. Those of you who have not been to our website, go to lifesuccesslegacy.com. You can find all of our other podcasts and a bunch of information. If you are following us on YouTube, we would appreciate you subscribing and downloading. That helps us out quite a bit. And until we meet again, have a great one.
Bye-bye.